Hello guys, welcome to Software Engineer K. It's after a long time actually. I had to take a break of about 3 years due to some reasons like software engineering projects and some other reasons. I think because of that we missed this training session series. So as you can remember, this is C#.NET with object-oriented designing and object-oriented programming. We have already completed 2 sessions. Within that 2 sessions, I introduced you Visual Studio IDE, Integrated Development Environment, and in the first video, I introduced Visual Studio, and I went through a lot of different features of the IDE. And in the second video, I introduced you C#.NET, and you can remember we tried to develop a simple console application, and we identified we studied about variables. What is a variable? We just declare 1 or 2 variables and assign values to those, and then again output those values likewise. It's a simple console application, and this is the third session. In this session we are going to discuss about this is the title actually, Introduction to C# with primitive value types or primitive or value types and reference types. We can call value type or the same preferred by primitive, the word primitive types. And then we have to further talk about reference types, something called reference types. So as 4 different topics. In the first topic, we are going to discuss about primitive types and primitive types, what is called a value type as well, understanding primitive type and value or value type. Then in the second topic, second point, understanding reference types. Third point, potential resource leaks in .NET, especially in C#.NET, and theory of garbage collection. In the last topic, fourth topic, introduction to base class library. Just introductions. Okay, so just as in the previous session, here also we are going to use Visual Studio. Now I have the version 2022, so you can start Visual Studio like this, and there you in this also we are going to write a simple console application to discuss these 4 topics. So we create a new project. Then we have to select C# as the language and Windows as the platform, because I am using Windows OS, and application type as console. There you can see two categories again, because now we have previous .NET framework and latest .NET Core framework. Actually, we are not using previous .NET framework because it is quite an outdated one. Since we have all the latest features like platform independence, everything, just like in the previous session, we are going to use console application with .NET on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, that is .NET Core. Okay, I select it and click next. You can type any application name here. I just type as console app 1, and let's save in desktop. Okay, and solution name also console app, let's say solution. Again, place solution and project in the same directory. Don't do that, because if you want to add new projects to the same solution, then everything will get confused. So we have to keep the project folder separately from the solution folder. Inside the solution folder, then it will create a separate folder for project console app. Okay, next. I like to use .NET 8. We have .NET 9 also, but I am not going to use it because still it might have some problems. So long-term support provided for .NET 8, so let's use it. Enable content support, I don't want to use it because I am not going to use this as an enterprise or deployment solution, just a test. Then do not use top level statements. That means, as you remember in the previous, we can create own program file, or can directly write the startup coding within the same file, main method, without having a main method. So that is not a specific selection. You can select as you want. So just create. Okay, now it has created the project. It has the namespace console app 1 because our project name is console app 1. Solution name is console app 1 solution, and we have the program class and main method. Now within it, we are going to discuss the topics. Understanding primitive types, or also called value types. Actually, what are primitive types and value types? In programming, we have to develop many logic. We have to assign different types of values, real-time values, like name of someone, age of someone, and the salary of someone, and something decisional variables like yes or no, or true or false. Likewise, there are a lot of different types of values we have to use in programming. For those, we have something called primitive values. That means those values are not based on any other value type, or those values are not depending on any other value. That is why those are called primitive value, and also called value types, because in default those variables, the value of those variables pass by value. That means if you pass a value by if you pass a variable value to a method, it can't refer the original value. It have the value, but it can't refer the original reference. Okay, if you change that value inside the method, original reference doesn't feel it. That's why it's called value type. If you come back to the original value and try to access, you will see the original value is there, but within the method, the past value is changed. Within the method, that value is there, new value is there. Within the scope of out of the scope of method, that means the main scope, it will have the original value, something like that. So value type. Let's try to declare some value type variables within this main method and display those values again. I will define some values, like we have actually string. We don't directly call a value type because it's a reference type. Let's use short. We call it short value. You can put any name to that. You can put any name. I just use short value. I'll assign the value 10. Okay, Then we will use, before that let's use another small value type called byte. Okay, we call it byte value, name is byte value. I assign 2 there, and here I assign about 100 byte short. Then int value I assign something like 1000. Then long value is quite a bigger value. If you want to assign bigger values, you can use long. Those are all, those 4 types are integer in the sense no any floating points, just decimal values, sorry, just real values without any decimal. If you want to use decimal values, you can use either float, let's say 100.5. If you want to use float value, you have to assign f, sorry, yeah, you have to assign f, otherwise it will show you a compile error. Then for the bigger floating point, bigger decimal values, use double, like a bigger value like this. Those are integers and decimal including values. Then in addition to that, for decision making values like true, false or yes, no, we have the type boolean. Let's call it bool value. I assign the value true, or you can use false as well. Okay, then what are the other okay, after boolean we have another primitive data type called decimal. So decimal also something similar to float and double, but we have a specific variable for that, for bigger decimal values. Let's say I just assign some value. You can apply any bigger value for that decimal. Okay, you can see a compile error here. That is because if you just use a value like this for a decimal variable, it considered as a double value. But if you want to specifically call it, assign it as a decimal value with some decimal points like this, you have to put the suffix m. Then only compiler consider this value as a decimal values. Otherwise, a decimal also implicitly considered as a double. And these are the basically the primitive data types in C#. And there are some other types like unassigned, u int, s int, likewise. In this session I don't discuss about those unassigned integer, unassigned byte, that means u byte, u short, u int, something like that. We'll discuss later because I have to explain a bit of what is unassigned and assigned. So we keep it that for now. And although the string is not a primitive data type in C#, I just create a value, string value as well here. Something like this, some string value. In C#, string is not considered as a primitive or value type because string always create a heap in the memory, and this string, and you have this object type string as well. Even you create a string like this, it internally refer a string object, string type object. That means it is not a real primitive value, but just for demonstration I use string also here, and don't consider string as a primitive data type. Then let's try to output these values. We have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Okay, let's say three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, let's paste these variables here. Long value, then float value, double value, then boolean value, then decimal value, and string value. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. We have missed one. Byte, short, int. Sorry, we have int. Okay, int value. Right. Now let's try to run this, and then you will see the output. Okay, can you see the output? We have 200,000, then left 100.5. Now when it output the value, that this f part is missing because that is just a suffix to denote the compiler, that is a closed value, and then this value is true. This is again suffix m is missing because it's not a part of the value, something like that. Okay, so that is about primitive types or value types. Then the next topic, we have understanding reference types. What are reference types? Actually, reference types are kind of also called object types. In C# or any object-oriented programming language, without just using only primitive values, we can create objects, classes. If you create a class, a data class, within that data class we can have primitive variables also, or again inner reference types as well. So then within the main routine, if you create an object instance of that class, that is called a reference to that reference type. So let's try to create a simple class within the same program, and try to create an object of that class and get use of the values of that class object. Let's say now we already have a class called program. You can write inner classes, but I don't use it here. I use a separate class. Let's call it public class person. Okay, public class person. Within that we can have a constructor if you want. And again we can have a public variable like name, sorry, string name. Okay, we can put a default value like string empty. Now this is a class, public class person. Then if you want to get use this inside our program main method, we have to create an instance of the person class. Okay, person, let's call it person value and new person. Now within the person value instance we should see the name. Okay, there we can assign a value, name of the person. Now this is called reference type. Okay, this is a reference type because this variable is created by a class. If you created a variable by a class, always it's a reference type. Now if you print this value also, person dot name. Now let's try running what will happen. Okay, can you see? It printed the name of the person we have already assigned. We assigned just, we didn't assign a name of the person. So same thing here. This is called reference type. Now there is something more called in the primitive types we can pass a value, the value of the primitive type to a function, or you can call it method or procedure. If you pass a reference type to a method, that value is the original value of the past variable is not changed if you change the value within the method. Okay, that is called pass by value, because we just pass the value, not the reference of the primitive variable. Also, if you want to change, if you want to reflect the change done to the variable within the method to the original variable also, we have to pass that primitive type by reference. So there are two different ways of passing a reference primitive type to a method. First way is called pass by value, second way is called pass by reference. Let's try to do that. Now in our main method we have already declared some variables. Then I write another method, static void my method, and to that I want to pass an integer value called my int value or my int value. Within that I want to change this value. Whatever the value we got into this variable, sorry, this method, I use that value and add another 10 to that, like this. Okay, now let's check what happened. Here again I print the value, initial value, then I call this method and pass the same integer value to that. Okay, I pass the same integer value to that, and I again print the value. Let's see what happens. If this is passed by reference, in this print it should print as 1000. Then we call the method. Within the method, value is added by another 10. Then if it is not passed by value, it should be 1010, because 1000 plus 10, 1010. Let's see whether 1010 appear here or still the initial value appear here. Okay, let's try. Okay, can you see? This is the initial value 1000, and the same value 1000 printed after calling the method and increased by 10. Why is that? Because these primitive types are in default passed by value, not passed by reference. Okay. If you want to pass by reference a primitive value, pass by reference, and other thing, reference types, that means these objects, if you want to pass this class, this object, to a function and change the value of it and try printing again, then what will happen? Before we go to pass by reference for primitive, let's do that also. Let's create a function, another function, a static void my method. Okay. Here I pass a person object. Okay, my person something, my person, and there I change the name of that person to a different value, like this, and let's revive. Let's see what happens. Now here we have the initial value of the person object, the name. Then we call this method with the same person value object, and we print the person name again after calling. Let's see what happens. Okay, see, initial value is the same that we have assigned here, name of the person. Then after calling this method, there I have assigned some s characters. Now the value is this. Why is that? This is an object of class, that means a reference type. Any value inside that object, if we change those values in a function or method, that value is assigned to the original object. That is called pass by reference. In default, any object types, any class types are passed by reference. Now let's try how to pass a primitive type as a reference. That is called primitive type passed by reference. Okay, let's write another function, static void, my method 3. There we pass this integer value again, but with a special keyword called ref. Okay, now we change the value of this, and we so let's do the same way. We can increase the value in different keywords, but I use the same way I did here. Okay, I did the same way here, right? So okay, value added by another 10. Now again, let's do the same here. This time we don't call my method, but we call my method 3. And when we call also, we have to use the keyword ref, that is called pass by reference, passing a primitive value as a reference. Then it just it doesn't just pass the value of the variable, but it passes the original memory reference of the variable to the function. Then whatever the change done within the method, in this method, is affected to the original variable value. Let's try running what happened. Okay, can you see? Initially it's 1000, now it's 1010. So that is the difference. Here we pass by value, here we pass by reference, and this is in default pass by reference. That is the difference between primitive type pass by value and primitive type pass by reference. Okay, now let's quickly move to the point 3. There is something called potential resource leaks in .NET and theory of garbage collection. What is meant by resource leaks? Resource leaks in the sense, actually any program, not only C#, any program that we developed and that we run actually consume the memory and some other hardware resources, especially the memory, RAM, random access memory. If you haven't clearly written the program without considering about potential resource leaks and the theory of garbage collection, once your program running, if you run the program for a long time or even after program stopped running, your memory locations will be still, your memory locations allocated for the program will be still kept allocated. That means it's something called resource leaks. That means even after you close the program, when you try to run another program, you will feel the performance difference, because your RAM is allocated still consuming by the previous wrong program. Then we have to discuss about garbage collection. Garbage collection is something like this in .NET. Whatever variable you declared that consume lot of RAM, you have to dispose within the dispose method of whatever the class. I will show you how to do that. Then what happened? There is called a garbage collection mechanism in C# framework, the runtime. That means when you declare a variable and when you assign a value to that variable, each those variable have a maximum count of references it can keep. That count is increased one by one when the same variable referred by many places of the program, that count is increased. When the maximum count that reach to the maximum count considered by the garbage collection mechanism, then again runtime doesn't let to increase that value more than that. Then it happened the other way. It one by one decrease the count of references of the same variable. By decreasing the count of references, at one time it will come to 0. That means that variable reference is not referred by any place of the program. That means reference count is 0. Then runtime automatically allocate that variable reference to be garbaged. Okay. If that happened correctly, it doesn't make any resource leaks. That means whenever you close the program, that memory references will be automatically disposed because it's handled by garbage collection mechanism. That is called garbage collection. I will just write a simple thing. I don't go in deep because time being we are taking a lot of time to this session. How you implement that? Actually, there is a interface called iDisposable. Okay, see here you can see iDisposable. If you call it iDisposable, you will have to use we have to implement the interface. That means we have to implement this method. Without implementing this method that inherited from iDisposable interface, you can't use this interface. Okay. Within this method, whatever the variable you want to dispose, you have to dispose like this. Null. Okay. This is not nullable because that's why this like that. So we have to make it nullable. Right now it's not. If you do this, even your program stopped running, this value, the value assigned last assigned to the variable name of this person class will be automatically flushed out because we have made it null. That is called implementing iDisposable interface. Okay, so that is a good practice. Whatever this is very important when you create database connections like resource consuming big variables. This is not important here. Name is just a string variable. It will be automatically collected to the garbage because the string is doing that. But if you are creating database connection, let's say your program running here but your database deployed in some remote location, then you are not only consuming your personal your local computer memory, and you are consuming the network as well, because if you close the program at that time, by that time the program is still using the connection. That means program is still was connecting to the database. That means if it is not disposed within the dispose method, your network consumed to keep the database connection on active, and your RAM also consumed. That is called resource leaks. So whenever you create a database connection, if you create a database connection here instead of name or simple variable, you have to definitely implement the dispose method and make the database connection disconnect and make it null. Then no memory leaks. Okay, perfect. Now the last point, I don't have a lot of things to tell about that because introducing just an introduction. In next session, let's discuss about class libraries in deep just an introduction. In addition to using these primitive types and your own class types, what is called object types, you have a lot of already defined types, what are called types in class library. Okay, you can use those. Let's say how to use those. Sorry. How to use those. You have to use the using keyword. Under using keyword, you can use system is mostly used class library, and under system, sorry, you have to put a semicolon. Then under system class library also there are a lot of other types like system data and system dot input output. Likewise, lot of things, not only system, some other things also, like HTTP. There are a lot of system libraries. You can refer all those system libraries, and whenever you want to use those system libraries in the program, first you have to make a using directive. Is called directive. First you have to put a using directive just out of the namespace like this to the system or system data or whatever the library class. Then only you can use the available class types like this: compression, enumeration, and here in data, common SQL types. All those are system library class types or reference types. Okay, so I think we have done session 3. We discussed understanding primitive types, also for value types, then understanding reference types, and we got to know how differ the primitive type passed by value and passed by reference, and if it is a reference type, we can pass it only by reference because it's a class type. Then how we avoid potential resource leaks using disposable interface and dispose method. And we discuss about few class libraries. Okay, perfect. So I think you will follow these code lines, or you will personally practice those. And in the fourth session, I will come with a new topic. Now we have almost done with the variable types, so we can start a new thing. Still, actually, we didn't touch much about object-oriented concepts. Still, we are introducing the language, introducing variable types, and some basic concepts. So don't worry about that. In meantime, in new sessions, most probably fourth or fifth session, we will jump to WOP, object-oriented programming, object-oriented design. Okay, till that, hope you follow these code lines and join me the next session. Okay guys, goodbye to all.